First of all, thank you for taking the time to be here. I know how valuable your time is, and I appreciate the opportunity to spend the next few minutes with you. Like most leaders in healthcare today, you're facing an incredible amount of pressure. You're expected to improve quality, retain employees, reduce turnover, prepare for surveys, manage costs, develop future leaders, and still provide exceptional care, all at the same time. That's a tremendous responsibility. Over the last 40 years, I've had the privilege of working with organizations in healthcare, technology, education, and business. During that time, I've watched organizations invest millions of dollars in new systems, new processes, and new technology. Some succeeded, some didn't, and over time, I realized something. The organizations that consistently outperform everyone else don't necessarily have the best technology or the biggest budgets. They have leaders who intentionally develop their people. Because leadership changes everything. It influences culture, it behavior, it improves communication, it builds trust, and ultimately, it determines the outcomes an organization achieves. That's why today's discussion isn't really about an online learning platform. It's about something much bigger. It's about how organizations intentionally develop people, how they create cultures where employees want to stay, grow, and contribute, and how all of that translates into better care, stronger financial performance, and better outcomes for everyone they serve. Throughout our time together, I'd encourage you to think about learning differently. Instead of asking, how do we train our employees? Ask, how do we intentionally develop our people so they become more capable tomorrow than they are today? Because I've always believed that every organization has one competitive advantage that cannot be copied. It isn't technology. It isn't a building. It isn't a process. It's determined by the quality of its leadership. That's what I'd like to talk about today. Everything we're going to discuss today begins with one simple belief that has shaped my career and the way we built SkillCare Connect. Leadership is the multiplier. If you improve leadership, everything else has the opportunity to improve with it. Let me show you what I mean. So, what does great leadership actually look like? I believe it comes down to five capabilities. The first is leadership and influence. Leadership has very little to do with your title. Anybody can manage a process. Not everyone can influence people. I challenge leaders with one question. Don't measure your success by how many people report to you. Measure it by how many people perform better because of you. That's leadership. The second capability is coaching and mentoring. One of the greatest responsibilities we have as leaders is to leave people better than we found them. Every interaction is an opportunity to build confidence, develop capability, help someone solve a problem. I always tell leaders, your job isn't to have all the answers. Your job is to help your people become capable of finding them. The third capability is performance management. Performance should never be a surprise. People deserve clarity. They deserve feedback. They deserve accountability. Because people cannot achieve expectations they've never clearly understood. Great organizations remove ambiguity. Everybody knows what winning looks like. The fourth capability is one that's personally important to me: appreciative inquiry. Many organizations spend nearly all their energy trying to fix what's broken. There's certainly a place for that, but exceptional leaders also ask another question: what's already working, and how do we do more of it? Success leaves clues. Find them. Study them, replicate them. Positive change accelerates when people experience success instead of constantly hearing about failure. And finally, change management. Healthcare changes constantly. New regulations, new reimbursement models, new technology, workforce shortages, patient expectations. Change isn't coming. We're already living in it. The organizations that succeed won't necessarily have the smartest people. They'll have leaders who help people adapt the fastest. Leadership gives people the courage to move forward, and this is exactly why SkillCare Connect exists. We're not simply providing online courses, we're helping organizations build stronger leaders. Because education should never be about checking a compliance box. Education should change thinking. Change thinking should change behavior. Change behavior should improve performance. Improved performance should improve outcomes. If someone completes a course and nothing changes on Monday morning, we haven't educated anyone, we've simply delivered information. Information transforms organizations. Leaders do. So let me leave you with one final thought. Leadership isn't measured by the number of people who report to you. It's measured by the number of people who perform better because of you. Every conversation you have, every coaching session, every compliment, every correction, every example you set, you're multiplying something. The only question is, what are you multiplying? And I'd encourage you to think about this after today's session. If every leader in your organization led exactly the way you lead today, What would your culture look like 1 year from now? Because that answer is the legacy every leader is building, whether they realize it or not. I've always believed that people don't become great because someone manages them. They become great because someone believed in them enough to develop them. That's the multiplier. Leadership isn't about creating followers, it's about creating people who are capable of leading others. One question I get asked all the time is, what exactly is SkillCare Connect? Some people think it's an online learning platform. Others see it as a continuing education library or another compliance system. I see it differently. SkillCare Connect is an organizational capability platform. Every healthcare organization wants the same outcomes: better quality, stronger leaders, lower turnover, improved survey results, and a healthier culture. Those outcomes don't happen because leadership talks about them. They happen because people develop the skills to produce them. That's exactly why SkillCare Connect exists. Our learning is organized around the capabilities every successful healthcare organization needs: leadership, clinical excellence, operations, compliance, career development, and personal growth. These aren't just courses, they're the building blocks of organizational performance, and everything is role based. An administrator sees different learning than a director of nursing. A business office manager develops different competencies than a caregiver. Learning is relevant, practical, and immediately applicable. Most learning platforms measure activity. We measure outcomes. We're focused on improving retention, strengthening compliance, developing leaders, and helping organizations deliver better care. Because organizations don't celebrate course completions, they celebrate lower turnover, stronger survey results, better patient outcomes, and more capable leaders. That's the difference. So today, I encourage you to scan the QR code, spend a few minutes exploring the platform, and imagine how intentional learning could strengthen your own organization. Because technology doesn't transform organizations, content doesn't transform organizations. And people become better when leaders intentionally invest in their development. That's why our promise is simple: learn, lead, succeed. One employee is making better decisions, changes in organization, survey readiness improves, compliance strengthens, processes become more consistent, safety improves, leadership becomes stronger, culture begins shifting. This is where organizations stop reacting and begin operating intentionally. And eventually, all of that shows up where every executive pays attention: financial performance, reduced turnover, lower agency costs, improved occupancy, higher productivity, better reimbursement, fewer survey deficiencies, lower workers' compensation, reduced overtime, improved operating margins. Notice something: none of these are learning metrics. That's because learning isn't the destination, business performance is. This is another area where we're intentionally different. Most learning platforms tell you how many certificates were issued. That's interesting. But it doesn't help a CEO. It doesn't help a CEO. It doesn't help an administrator. Executives don't manage courses, they manage organizations. So instead of simply measuring activity, we measure outcomes: employee retention, competency, survey readiness, agency utilization, labor costs, occupancy, operating margin. Those are the conversations leadership teams are having every single day. Learning should support those conversations. I also want you to notice something across the bottom. These aren't guarantees, they're benchmarks. Organizations that intentionally develop their people consistently experience measurable improvements: higher retention, better survey outcomes, reduced agency utilization, lower labor costs, greater productivity, higher resident satisfaction. The exact numbers may vary from organization to organization, but the direction is remarkably consistent. Better people create better organizations. That's always true. I've spent over 4 decades helping organizations improve performance. Whether I was leading sales organizations, technology companies, healthcare systems, or education initiatives, I've learned one lesson that never changes: organizations don't outperform because they have better strategies. They outperform because they execute better, and execution is always a people issue. People make decisions, people serve customers, people care for residents, people solve problems. People create everything. So when someone asks me, why should we invest in learning? My answer is very simple. We're not investing in courses. We're investing in fewer survey deficiencies, lower turnover, higher occupancy, better leaders, safer care, stronger cultures, and ultimately, better financial performance. Because at the end of the day, learning isn't the return on investment. Performance. And that's why I believe one of the smartest investments any organization can make is an intentional investment in developing its people. I've never met an executive who said, I wish we had fewer great leaders. But I have met a lot of executives who wondered why their business wasn't improving. The answer is usually the same. Your business will rarely outperform the capability of the people leading it. If you want better financial results, start by developing better leaders. As we wrap up today, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Throughout this presentation, we've talked about leadership, learning, behavior, culture, and financial performance. While those may seem like separate topics, they're really all part of the same story. Organizations don't become exceptional because they have better policies, more technology, or even more training. They become exceptional because they intentionally invest in their people. Every resident interaction, every employee conversation, every survey result, every financial outcome can ultimately be traced back to the decisions people make every day. And those decisions are shaped by the knowledge they have, the leaders who coach them, and the culture they work in. That's why I believe leadership is the multiplier, learning is the catalyst, and people are the competitive advantage. At SkillCare Connect, we're not simply delivering courses. We're helping organizations build stronger leaders, develop more confident employees, improve the quality of care, and create cultures where people want to stay, grow, and do their very best work. Organizations grow. When leaders improve, teams improve. And when teams improve, the outcomes for residents, employees, families, and the organization improve as well. I'll leave you with the question I ask executives everywhere I go. If every leader in your organization led exactly the way you lead today, what would your culture look like 1 year from now? Because the future of every organization isn't determined by its strategy alone. It's determined by the leaders who choose every single day to invest in people, inspire excellence, and intentionally build the culture they want others to experience. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate the opportunity to share our vision, and I hope you'll join us in building stronger leaders, stronger teams, and better outcomes, one person at a time. Organizations don't change because information is available. Organizations change because leaders intentionally develop people who choose to think differently, act differently, and perform differently. That's the power of leadership. That's the purpose of learning, and that's the future we're building together.